Hello everyone, I am Byung-Young Kim, Chairman of the new Consilience Group. Following our previous discussion on Christian democracy, today I would like to reflect on the historical limitations of the Reformation and explain why we now need a true religious revolution that goes beyond it. This is not just a matter of reforming religious customs or doctrines. We must fundamentally re-examine the nature and role of religion itself. The 16th century Protestant Reformation was launched by Martin Luther, John Calvin, and other religious leaders in response to the Roman Catholic Church's manipulated doctrines and corrupt practices. At that time, the Catholic Church abused its authority in the name of God and wielded power to serve its own interests. Doctrinal distortions, indulgence sales that claimed to forgive sins for money, the abuse of pardons, and the buying and selling of positions like a bishop or the cardinal were rampant. In some regions, priesthoods were even inherited and the clergy were morally degenerate. In resistance to the corruption, reformers called for the restoration of the true faith. Their greatest achievement was translating the Bible into vernacular languages, allowing ordinary people to read it for themselves. Until then, the Bible existed only in Latin, accessible only to the clergy. Commoners were often ejected simply for possessing the Bible. The reformers broke this monopoly on knowledge and opened the way to truth for the masses. Despite its historical significance, the Reformation was incomplete. It was made possible by increased literacy and the spread of printing technology. However, reformers lacked the tools to critically examine the Bible. They lacked the literary analysis skills, advanced scientific knowledge, and relevant archaeological data necessary to refute the numerous false claims in the Bible. Consequently, they failed to recognize the many fabrications and absurdities within the so-called Holy Book. They did not permit any alternative interpretation and strictly adhered to the Bible's wording in its context. A true reformation could not take place, and it was only remembered as an event that happened in their time. Strictly speaking, the Reformation was not a true Reformation, but merely one of many superficial reforms, an imitation rather than a revolution. For centuries, the fields of literary criticism, archaeology, and science have revealed that the myths and doctrines upon which scripture and faith are based are irrational and historically inaccurate. Yet today, many clergy still believe in the God of ancient Hebrews who had limited scientific understanding and shaped the concept of Yahweh, which was later elevated into that of an all-powerful monotheistic deity. They insisted that the Bible contains nothing but truth without even a single error, and demand unquestioning obedience from their followers. However, the Old Testament is filled with violence, nationalism, discrimination, and scientific policies. No rational and reasonable clergy person could fail to see this. The fact that it is still preached and taught without any critique is clear evidence that Christianity has strayed from the truth. Anyone with the intellectual capacity to become a clergyman should be fully aware that the scriptures they believe in and follow, especially the Old Testament, contain significant errors and unwholesome content. It is a pity to see them using the so-called holy books, even though they recognize that they contain many contradictory statements, violent and lascivious languages, and unscientific, unethical, illogical, unhistorical, and valueless antisocial practices and distorted doctrines. Over the years, religion has become a means of protecting vested interests. Rulers and clergy have used it to legitimize their power and control the population. They continue to use outdated scriptures as an absolute truth and claim to be God's chosen people, centering everything around their people and their doctrines. As a result, God is no longer for the good for humanity as a whole, but has become an exclusive entity representing the interests of a particular group or a nation. Religion is no longer a means of achieving peace and truth, but has become a means of maintaining power and exploiting people. If the clergy defend these reasonable and irrational practices simply because they affect their livelihood directly, then they are using religion as a way to protect their vested interest and are living a false life. We must now prepare for a true religious revolution, one that goes beyond the Reformation and corrects the fundamental problems of religion. We can no longer remain trapped in the paradigm of the past. Today, we have powerful intellectual tools, science, philosophy, archaeology, philology, and more, to re-examine the very nature of religion. The religious revolution is not just an option, it is a necessity. We must abandon distorted images of God and reject the power-oriented systems embedded in outdated scripture and doctrine. Instead, we must develop a new rational, truthful, and just theory of humanity. To achieve this, I propose a new approach, new consilience, a bold union of natural scientific laws and the insights of the humanities and social science. This is the path to a religious revolution for the 21st century and the first step towards a better world for our future generations. The Reformation is unfinished. A religious revolution is needed. But this revolution must go further. It must help us to reclaim our inner divinity. It must restore reason and compassion to our spiritual lives. It must also free peace from the chains of myths and political power. Please join the new Consilience group and take part in this movement. Thank you very much.